right, this is lesson 7.1 of chapter 7, and chapter 7 is all about real numbers in the Pythagorean theorem. And 7.1, we're going to start out by finding square roots. So the first vocab word is square root of a number is a number that, when multiplied by itself, equals the given number. So every positive number has a positive and a negative square root. So that's like saying 5 times 5 is 25. So the square root of 25 is equal to 5. A perfect square is a number with integers as its square root 2. Okay? So an example of that, an integer is like negative 1, 0, 1, 2, etc. They're whole numbers. They don't have decimals. So those make perfect squares. So this symbol is called a radical sign. It is used to represent a square root. So you'll see this notation, and that means square root. The number under the the number under the radical sign is called the radicand. R-A-D-I. Okay, so that is all of our vocab for 7.1. Let's try some examples. I need to find the two square roots of 49. Okay, so I'm going to have a positive square root. Oops, did I skip over something? No. I'm going to have a positive and a negative square root of 49. Okay, and I'm thinking of what two numbers multiplied by each other give me 49. I know 7 times 7 is equal to 49. I also know that negative 7 times negative 7 is also 49. So the answer to this would be plus or minus 7. Okay, and this plus minus signs means a positive 7 or a negative 7. You don't have to write the number twice. So we have a positive square root where there is an invisible positive symbol out here. You don't need to write it if it's just positive. This negative symbol right here indicates that it is a negative square root, so your answer would be the negative. If you have both square roots, it's going to be this positive negative symbol. So your answer needs to have both the positive and the negative root of the number. So in this one, since there's no positive sign out here, I just want the positive square root of 25, and I'm thinking in my head what number goes evenly when multiplied by itself is 25, and I know that 5 times 5 is equal to 25, so the square root of 25 is 5. All right, this is a negative square root of 9 over 16. Now this looks kind of tricky. It's not bad. This is really the same thing as the negative square root of 9 over the negative square root of 16. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, and then 4 times 4 is 16. So the answer to B is negative 3 over 4. On C, I want the positive and the negative square root of negative 2.25. Now this is a little trickier because there's a negative symbol inside of the radical. So I know, sorry, that's the bell. I know I need to find two numbers, the same number, when multiplied by themselves, they give me 2.25. Now this is not as obvious, but it's still definitely doable. I would break it down by what's to the right of the left of the decimal and the right of the decimal. So 1 times 1 is 2. What times what is 0.25? Well, I know that 1.5 times 1.5 gives me 2.25. Okay, so these are my two roots, but be careful here. This is a negative 2.25, so my roots are positive 1.5 and a negative 1.5, or you can just write it plus or minus 1.5. Okay, because I need a positive times a negative gives me a negative number. All right, on your own, try these three. Make sure you rewrite them first as a radical, like this, and find me the two square roots of the number. Hit play when you're ready. All right, A is plus or minus 6 because 6 times 6 is 36. B is plus or minus 10. And C is plus or minus 11. These I would consider to be ones that you need to memorize. Just like 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. Go ahead and copy this down. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. 10 squared is 100. 11 squared is 121. And 12 squared is 144. I would expect you to have 1 through 12 memorized. It'll just make your life a whole lot easier. Okay, on these next ones, we need to find the square roots. Oops, these are also on your own, so go ahead and try these 3 and then press play when you are ready. All right, A, the negative square root of 1 is negative 1, plus or minus the square root of 4 over 25. Oops. If you remember, this is the same thing as plus or minus the square root of 4. Oops, wrong number. Over the square root of 25. So this is plus or minus 2/5. And finally, C. This one's a little tricky. You got to think of 2 of the same numbers that you can multiply by and get the correct answer, or you could use your handy-dandy calculator, and it will tell you that 3.5 times 3.5 gives you 12.25. So then your answer is 3.5. Next page. Okay, so here's a very important thing to take away from this. Squaring a positive number, so let me say 2 squared is 4, and finding the square root, so if I wanted the square root of 4, I get 2. These are called inverse operations, okay? So you can use this relationship to evaluate expressions and solve equations involving squares and square roots, okay? So just like the inverse operation of addition is subtraction, subtraction is addition, multiplication is division, and division is multiplication. Now you know that something squared, you take the square root to undo that operation to do the inverse. All right, so when you do evaluate this expression, the first thing you always want to do is your square root. So the square root of 36 is 6. So this would be 5 times 6 plus 7. Then order of operations, you do 30 plus 7. So the answer to A is 37. B, I'm going to do the square root first. So I have 1/4 plus, remember this is the square root of 18 over the square root of 2, or you're going to tell me right now, I have no idea what the square root of 18 is. We could also look at 18 over 2 and rewrite this as the square root of 9, because 18 divided by 2 is 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. So if I put 1/4 plus 3, you can either write 3 and 1/4, or you can write 13 over 4. Either way does not matter to me. C, you need to do the square root of 81 first, which is 9. Then you need to square it, minus 5. So I have 81 minus 5, which gives me 76. All right, example 4 is our real-life application. So it says the area of a crop circle, which is this right here, is 45,216 square feet. What is the radius of the crop circle? So in order to be successful in this problem, you need to know that area is equal to pi times the radius squared. I need to use 3.14 for pi, and I'm trying to find the radius. I'm trying to find this distance right here. Okay, so I know the area, so I'm going to plug that in. 45,216 is equal to pi. I know I want to use 3.14 times the radius squared. Okay, so right here, I would divide both sides by 3.14 because I need to get my variable by itself. And when I do that, I get 14,400 equals r squared. Okay, so I have r squared. In order to get r, I need to take the square root of both sides. Okay, because that's the inverse operation. It's how I undo it. And if you take the square root of 14,400, I do not expect you to know this, but you can use your calculator, and you will get 120. So this is r is equal to 120 feet. All right, try these next 4 on your own examples on your own, and press play when you're ready. All right, doing the square root first, we have 12 minus 3 times 5. Multiplication next, we have 12 minus 15. And for number 1, you should get -3. Number 2, I'm going to do 28 over 7 first, and I know that that is 4. So I have the square root of 4 plus 2.4. Square root of 4 is 2, plus 2.4 gives me 4.4 for number 2. And number 3, I'm going to do the square root of 4 first, so 15 minus 2, and that needs to be squared. So this is 15 minus 4, which gives me 11. And number 4, same thing, area equals pi r squared. So my area is 2826. Pi, I'm using 3.14, and I need to solve for the radius. Okay, which means I need to divide both sides by 3.14. And 2826 divided by 3.14, use your calculator here, as I'm doing right now, and you should get 900. And then if you want to take the square root of 900, or excuse me, in order to undo the square, you need to find the square root of both sides. So the square root of r squared is just r, and the square root of 900 is 30. Okay, so this should be 30 feet is the radius. And that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.